Oh, hey everybody. I actually started this last night, but I started it way too late. It was like really early in the morning. I think this is the right time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's been, I think, covered, but not from my perspective. The Oakland Raiders, I'm not criticizing the signing of Vontaze Burfict from the Cincinnati Bengals. I think singularly, he was an excellent addition to the team and will prove to be a net asset without question. But what I'm questioning goes like this. When I was 16 years old, I met Lou Erber. Lou Erber was a legendary Oakland Raiders coach and a scout. I met him on a flight from Chicago back to the Bay Area. And he was actually written up in Pro Football History. I'm Googling him now. I'm trying to find an image of him so you can get a look at what he would look like. But at any rate, that's beside the point. Mr. Erber and I were while sitting next to each other. He was an awesome person to talk to, and I can't say enough for how he made an impression on this 16-year-older. But what he showed me that really made an impression on me was a book about his, considered part of his scouting records of players, but there are a couple of, actually not a couple, several pages that added up to kind of a brand of Raider player that they would look for. For example, for linebackers they had Phil Villapiano, for offensive tackle Gene Upshaw, and so on. Now, I realize that was the era before player free agency we have today, right? But it's in that vein, from that perspective, that I ask this question. And the question I ask is, who are the Raiders? There is an indirect correlation between the activity of a team in free agency and how many players it adds, and its won-loss record. In other words, the more players the team has, the more turnover there is, the lower the won-loss record. So from that perspective, I think there should be some concern. There should be some questions. I mean, it's clear that the Raiders this year are getting younger and faster. But my argument was that this Raider team should have been last year's Raider team. Younger and faster, not older and slower. Last year's Raider team was older and slower. A big mistake. It's like, and I said it before, if you've regularly watched this, I said, it's like Gruden doesn't realize that the game is much faster than it was in 1998. You know what I mean? It's like this. It's like Frankenstein. You got one part over here from the Bengals. You got another part over here from the Patriots, We got another part over here from the Steelers. It's like young Frankenstein. It reminds me of this scene where Victor Frankenstein said to Igor, so that brain, was that the brain of Hans Nippert? And Igor said, doesn't ring a bell. And so young Frankenstein just said, well, so just whose brain is that? And Igor said, A-B something or other. A-B normal. That's it. Yeah, A-B normal. And Frankenstein went nuts and he said, you mean to tell me that you expect me to put an abnormal brain in a 7-foot-long, 54-inch wide gorilla? And he stops choking like, ah! It's a hilarious scene, right? But I say that deliberately because AB is, Antonio O'Brien, right? And I think Antonio O'Brien's going to do exceptionally well, but you don't know what you're going to get in total. I mean, you're bringing in speed, you're bringing in everything else, but it's AB normal, right? Or is it AB normal or is it abnormal? Okay? And what is the idea? You know, is there a template? Because I was thinking that when Mayock came on, I was even thinking about with Reggie McKenzie. It's like, okay, who? And with Reggie, you can get some idea, but who is the Raider player of today? What does it mean to be an Oakland Raider? If Vontaze Burfict personifies, or is supposed to personify, the Raiders' defense, or Raiders' defensive player, then, you know, what did we have before, right? What did we have before? We had, I don't know. The Raiders have had this huge turnover of players. Right now, they are just over 25 years in average age, whereas last year, when they're entering the NFL 2018 season, the Raiders were, what, 27 years old, just over 27 years old in the average. That's up there, man. Now they're coming down there where they need to be, but is the Raider player smart, aggressive? You know, who is that? Who's that brand? And my contention is, if you don't have an idea of what your player brand is supposed to be, then you're not going to know what kind of outcome to expect or why. I mean, Gruden is saddled with, by his own choice, obviously, having to re-coach a bunch of guys that weren't even with the team before. Whereas Bill Belichick was off vacationing in Barbados. You know what I mean? So, you understand what I'm saying? So this situation to me is one where I think, all right, can we expect them to succeed? And my answer has to be, I'm concerned. I'm not going to say no, but I will say I'm concerned. And I will say that I believe the Raiders, you know, you can't just sort of, I mean, obviously change the plans when they found out that Antonio was going to be available. And that's a great thing. But in reshaping this team, what is it? So now that I asked that question, let me fill in the blanks myself. I think it's a fast team, a quick striking team, or I think it should be a fast team. It should be a quick striking team. It should be a hard-hitting, nasty, aggressive defensive team. It should be something more along the lines of the older Raiders, going all the way back to the 11 Angry Men, playing press, bump, and run, always bringing the threat of a blitz, and basically trying to sow destruction. Every team has a philosophy and a personality. And anybody who knows football knows that I'm making sense. So, when I had the Dallas Cowboys, even now, Stephen Jones will tell you they don't build through the draft. I mean, excuse me, they build through the draft, the Cowboys do. But when they build through the draft, they have a Cowboys type, is what I meant to say. That's why they don't do that. Their philosophy is to build through the draft. The Steelers' philosophy has been to build through the draft. But the Raiders look like Frankenstein. It's like, it's all over the place. I can't figure it out. And, you know, you've got Burfict has a 1-year contract. Why? You know? What's that about? 1 year. Test him out, see how he does. If he proves, you sign him to a longer deal. All right? And then you continue this free agency thing. you create this other team that you don't quite know what it is the next year, right? That's not good. And I don't know that it worked for John Gruden before, because when he inherited the Buccaneers, he took the players as they were, right? In other words, he didn't go on this huge free agency spree, okay? He came in, he had a short period of time, he coached them up, installed the Bill Walsh offense, and they marched through the playoffs and to the Super Bowl, and they won his first year. And after that, we haven't seen anything, okay? So I'm just asking, all right? Anybody who knows football knows that every team has a brand. The Philadelphia Eagles have an approach that defines how they play currently. The Chicago Bears under Matt Nagy have an approach that defines how they play currently. We expect what some people call trickeration on offense and interesting design. You know, so I mean, but the Raiders under Gruden, we know we got last year, but this year we're going to get something different. But what? Do you know? Does John Gruden know? What's the draft going to look like? What kind of brand of player are they looking for? Are they looking for, even if it's the best athlete available, what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Hey, Muhammad, how you doing? Muhammad says, went to Vegas, saw the new stadium. I don't think it's going to have the same vibe as the Oakland crowd. No way. Raider Nation for life, how you doing? He says, or she says, whoever you are. It's still a rebuild, I feel, but Gruden's trying to give the team the best way to win now, at least compete. My point is, what does that mean, best way to win now, okay? And when you say best way to win now, you have a philosophy. You can't just, I mean, everybody has a philosophy. Some people say, well, okay, the best way to win is 60% run, right? And therefore I play smash mouth football and I have play action. That's the Mariucci approach, okay? So, you know, what is it? You can't just say that. It has to have, you have to have a plan. You have to go in with some thought. You can't just say, okay, well, I'm getting the best guys to win. But what do you want them to do? Because as Derek Carr told me in an interview right here on Xenia62 on YouTube, he goes, look, I only do what the coaches tell me. So if you're a coach and you've got a plan that's kind of, you know, not so much there, and maybe it's nascent, you know, it's still forming and it's still changing, guess what? That confusion is going to show up on the field. The player, it will reflect in the ineffectiveness of the player and the play. And no one will be the better for it. So my point is, my question is, who are the Oakland Raiders? You know, you say rebuild. Obviously, they had to rebuild. To me, if Gruden had followed the formula that I'm talking about last year, no rebuild would have been necessary. But there came this cash problem born by the fact that the Las Vegas Stadium hotel tax revenue was far less than consultants said it was going to be. And the Raiders were using that, and had to use that by contract as pay-go funds until the bond money came through. And even then, the bond issue is still underwater. And then the Raiders have not secured anywhere near as much in luxury suite sales or sponsorships. They need at the minimum $600 million of sponsorships to, you know, effectively pay for the stadium and the loan that they got from Bank of America, the line of credit. Joseph Armendura says, Joseph says, just got on. Did you give your thoughts on Burfict signing? Do you see him as more of a liability? No, in and of himself, I think I see him as a great signing. But what I'm saying is that overall, my question is, who are the Raiders? Because it's like, you know, sort of going along and, oh, this guy's available, I'll get him. And then I have to change they said this, we have to change our free agency strategy because we discovered he was available. But within that, change the strategy how? All right? Yeah, and Joseph Armendura says, I think you mentioned yesterday something about a Frankenstein effect. Yeah, because you have like Cincinnati, you know, you have the Cincinnati arm over here, and you've got the New England Patriots arm over here, you've got the Steelers head over here, and you've got this brain. It's AB. Is it AB normal, or is it abnormal, right? And that's what people are asking with respect to Antonio Brown, because although I think Antonio is going to be fantastic, there are people saying, well, in the locker room he's going to be this. I don't buy that myself, but I'm saying that there are people who are thinking that way, and so it brings up the question, is he AB normal or is he abnormal, right? Where did I get that from? A famous scene in Young Frankenstein. You know, Igor thought he got a brain from a guy named AB normal, all right? And the thing about it is that he got abnormal, and it's not all NFL teams either. If you say that, you really don't know what you're talking about, period. Because, again, the Dallas Cowboys don't build that way. The New England Patriots certainly don't, and again, Bill Belichick was in the Barbados. The New England Patriots have been net non-feeders in free agency, non-participants, and yet they win all the time, okay? There's two philosophies. You either build through free agency or the draft. This Raider organization builds through free agency, and then it sprinkles in to the draft. The good news is that, you know, let's see where they are with the cap right now. All right? And Norman Woodward says it's all NFL teams. That's BS, man. You have no idea what you're saying. Okay? I'm just telling you straight out. I'm being, you know, kind of like charitable, but you know what? That is way, I mean, that's crazy. That's like saying every NFL team has exactly the same strategy. And, you know, and anybody who's just writing that is writing that just to be provocative and get me talking, which is fine because it's great for the program, right? You're putting money in my pocket when you do that. But it's stupid, man, because not every NFL team is the same. To even write that is ridiculous. I should just highlight that. That's all NFL teams. I mean, that's what you wrote. Right here, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is what you wrote, right? That's all NFL teams right there, okay? All right? Come on, dude. I mean, get real. That's not all NFL teams. Jeez. My Lord. Yeah. Anyway, let's see where the Raiders are in terms of the salary cap. Oakland Raiders. Salary cap. 2019. Boom. Sports Track. Because they were, last time we checked this, they were at 40, the Raiders were at 46 million, right? Now let's see where they are now. They are at, in terms of space, they're down to 25 million. Ooh, oh, excuse me, 30 million. 30 million, 30.8 million is where they're down to, okay? So, they're really getting tight with respect to money for the draft, and so I cannot see them now. I cannot see the Raiders. Notori says that Raiders locker room, though. Explain what you mean. I can't see the Raiders keeping all 3 picks in the first round now. I can more easily see it before this flurry of free agents came through. But now I can't. And I think that they went a little too overboard. I really do. Now if you're saying to me, hey, look, things aren't done and there's still cap room to be made, we'll see. All right? But I really believe they should have made a couple of big deals. I mean, look, the 2 Browns were fine, and then build the rest of it in the draft. This name I can't pronounce says if you hit on most of your draft picks, that's how you build a championship team, because the latter round picks that don't take up much cap space, so you can use that money to fill other needs. Right. But see, and I'm glad you made that point, because I'm going to add to that by saying this. If you have a sound idea schematically of what you are presenting, then you're comfortable building your team through the draft. You're not looking for answers through the next big free agent signing that you think is going to excite everybody. Because at the end of the day, you know, you have confidence in your approach, and you know it's going to produce wins. Joseph says they need to cut Seth Roberts. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded away to the first round picks for 2020. Norman Woodward says, how much money do they need for the draft picks? Well, I would say that where they were at with $46 million is about what they needed at minimum to play comfortably, with the idea that you're not going to spend, you're going to use 2 of those picks to trade, okay? And with the idea that at least one of your picks is going to cost a signing bonus of about $22 million, all right? So you think about it from that perspective and you go from there. But they let themselves dip below that and they interrupted their maneuvering room. It's almost like they said, well, hey, you know what? We can get these veterans that are younger rather than having to coach these players because the owner wants us to win right now and bring a Super Bowl to Oakland. But again, my central point is this. You don't win that way in my philosophy. My philosophy is you come in and say, what in terms of plays and formations have we not done that we can do this year that the other organizations won't expect us to do that makes us unpredictable? If you think in terms of NFL history, the teams that have made the greatest turnarounds have been organizations that really had dramatic schematic changes. One of them, of course, the Bucs under John Gruden. But how about the late Tony Sparano and the Miami Dolphins organization that he coached, where he used the Wildcat formation. And the Wildcat formation just completely took the New England Patriots by surprise, and they took the Patriots apart. Because when the Patriots plan for, a game against you, they are the best pattern modelers. What that means is they look at what you do, they figure out how to stop what they perceive your weakness is based on your formations, plays, and tendencies, and they execute that game plan, right? But suppose you completely change that pattern. You come in with something that was totally different, not on tape before, all right? And then they're screwed. That's what happened. And that's what happens in the NFL. Because the NFL is so heavily analytics driven today, the way you achieve success is through a formula that puts the organizations off balance that you're going to play against. They didn't expect that, all right? Of course, you got to make sure the plays work too. Billy Goffin says, I believe the Raiders trade back in the draft picks, pick up extra for the defense. It'll also save us cash, right? Yeah, it will. That's the position the Raiders are in. That's the position the Raiders are in, okay? That's the position the Raiders are in. So, I want to come on and make that point shortly. It's 2:09 in the morning, and I'll be back with first the Las Vegas Stadium. The Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting is tomorrow, well, today. So I'll have a 1 o'clock live stream about that. That should be really interesting because do you realize that they had a security breach? Do you realize that Jedi Rich Lightlauer and his, I guess his wife or girlfriend, Joy, Jedi Joy is her name, quite literally waltzed in there in a car. And nobody was around the stadium. I mean, no one. I don't know if you've seen that video, but you have to watch it. That's extraordinary. But as I talked to a friend of mine who's in charge of stadium, and I said, have you ever seen anything like that? And I won't quote this person. But my friend said, I know that I would never allow that sort of thing to happen at my stadium. There were no security anywhere. This is a multi-billion-dollar stadium, all right? So Joseph says, if they have an open session, there is an agenda, someone should bring it up. Yeah, maybe, okay? But see, the way they do things, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if it came up because it's bad news. and they don't like for people to hear about bad news, all right? As opposed to just upfront dealing with it and saying, hey, you know what, we screwed up. John Akala says, so City Council also votes tomorrow on the Raiders lease extension after the approval of the Alameda Board of Supervisors approved it yesterday. I didn't see that was on the agenda. Let me double check, because I know there's a special City Council meeting. So let me see what was put on Oakland News Now, my blog, right? And find out, because let's see here. It should be by yeah, special Oakland City Council meeting tomorrow, and let's see here. We've got council recognized 7.8 proactive bureau planning, states of inflation of homelessness, city budget. It's not listed. It's not listed as one of the special items. And I didn't think I saw it, otherwise it would have been in my brain. But it's not listed there. Now, that doesn't mean the city council won't elect to handle it this way. They put it on the agenda, but it's not called. So if it's put on the agenda for a vote, actually, you know what? It has to be put on the agenda. It has to go through 2 readings. Okay? So let me check on that as to when it's supposed to come up, excuse me, and I'll post that as a special blog post. All right? So there that is. I'll check on that. All right. So one other item. Oh, I don't know if you, for those of you who may have missed it, we had J.J. Lasley and Carlos Mosley and Christiane Harder of the Oakland Panthers of the Freedom Football League on earlier tonight, and fantastic show. Really loved the conversation. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do so right here at Zenny 62. Was quite cool, as if I do say so myself, right? It was quite cool. What else? I can't think of anything else right now. I think we're all, so I'm pretty sure we're all up to date, right? Any last rites, comments? I can't think of any myself. So with that, I will bid you all adieu. Remember, 1 o'clock Pacific is 4 o'clock on the East. So see you at 4 o'clock on the East about the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting. Oh, and if you haven't done so, bookmark Oakland News Now for updates, as well as Zenny62 on Twitter and every place else. Joseph says, the Vegas Stadium situation reminds me of that scene in Casino. Robert De Niro character says that the way they handle business is like a bunch of yokels. But up bumps. All right. See you everybody later. Okay, take care. Okay, see ya.